Millions of insect species have been around performing key roles such as pollination, maintaining ecological balance, controlling pests, and recycling nutrients. Today, we are joined by Jason Runo, who's a beekeeper as well as a bee lover. This is the Chakula podcast. We bring to you all relevant issues and discussions about food in Kenya and beyond. We break down topics and dig deeper into day to day happenings in food and farming systems, giving a holistic view on the food we eat. Welcome. I'm your host, Felicitas Mwali. How are you, Jason?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's finally good to have you on the show.
We've been talking about this for a very long time.
Yeah, today we'll be discussing more about bees, the important role that bees play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just on probably
Mm.
just to start us off, it will be very nice for you to share with us what you're doing as a
Okay.
beekeeper
Yeah.
and also the space of bee farming in Kenya.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. So my name is Jason Runo.
Mm-hmm.
I am a beekeeper. Most importantly, is a bee lover.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what I've been doing when got into the business initially, I got into try and sell honey. But the more I started learning about bees, then my fascination shifted. Not to say that I'm not interested in honey, but now I'm more interested in knowing the bee holistically. Um, so what I've been doing mostly is right now I'm working with a lot of farmers. I run a business called Ohkay Honey Market,
Mm-hmm.
and we focus on three key things. One, capacity building. In capacity building, what we do is help farmers to access good products. We also help farmers to quality hives. That's what I mean by products. We also train them on beekeeping because a lot of people keep bees, but they just keep bees.
Mm.
But they're not like what I've seen on the ground is a lot of people just have, let's say, like 3 or 4 or 5 beehives, and then someone comes to check on them once a year or something. While bee farming can actually be a lot more profitable if you're more involved with the bees. So that's one aspect that we do is capacity building, that we make sure that farmers are competent beekeepers. Um, the other thing we do is market linkage.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, we have a few farmers who have product, and on the other hand, we have a few people who are looking for product. So we try and link those two people. And third is consumer awareness. Bees, I think, are one of the most misunderstood insects, creatures on this planet. They are so important to our existence, but a lot of people see them as a threat,
Mm.
purely from the stinging aspect. But I'm here to tell people that we can actually coexist with these bees in peace, and we must actually be very interested in their well-being, because if the bees are okay, then we're okay. If they're not, like you've suggested, like you've said, our life will be in a lot of danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like existence of bees literally is what is keeping us here.
Yeah, and just on, yeah, thanks for
Mm.
that. And basically, what's really the context of farming and beekeeping here in Kenya? Now that you work with small scale farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of farmers, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
surprised how many farmers have beehives and how much actually beekeeping is so intertwined in our culture as Africans.
Yeah.
Very much. Like if I think about the Kikuyu
Mm-hmm.
community, you know, they were largely vegetarian. They are largely
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian, but what happens is during ceremonies when they slaughter a goat, when a child is born, when there's a marriage. But also what comes with that is traditional brew, which is moratina,
Yeah.
which comes from honey. So you can see honey played a very critical role in our communities. Even if you think about medicinal food preservation, honey doesn't go bad, so they used it to preserve meat. So we're traditionally we are very intertwined with bees, and we lived in harmony with them. And this is the thing with traditional beekeeping and modern
Mm-hmm.
beekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
I find, and this is a personal opinion,
Yeah.
Modern beekeeping is very focused and highly focused on output. It's about how many kilos can we
Yeah.
get from this, this hive can. But traditional beekeeping had a lot to do with the relationship with the insect.
Ah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
we would only harvest honey like maybe like I was saying when there's circumcision, when
yeah,
for food or
yeah,
someone is sick. It wasn't really necessarily for commercial purposes
yeah,
per se, and we coexisted with the bees very, very well.
yeah.
And the other thing a lot of people don't know, but it is said that honey is one of the complete foods. Like a
Mm,
human
explain.
being
Uh-huh.
can actually survive on honey alone.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
also
it
didn't know
it
that.
has everything that you
Uh-huh.
actually need.
Yeah.
So now these are the things that actually led me into beekeeping, because the more I studied, I was like, how come we don't talk about this?
Mm,
Beekeeping, there is not a single negative effect of beekeeping,
yeah.
not that I can think of, unless maybe just being stung, which is also healthy.
But I read somewhere that once a bee stings you, the bee dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, but also again, venom
yeah.
is one of the most expensive bee products.
Mm,
So as far as beekeeping is concerned, I think it's a win-win-win, and I think governments need to take notice of this, because, like you were saying, like you were asking me about my experience with farmers, and what
yeah.
I've seen is that any farmer, smallholder farmer who takes beekeeping seriously, usually, once they have access to like a good hive and everything, they you naturally turn them into a conservationist,
Mm,
because what happens is that person ends up planting more trees,
yeah.
planting more flowers, reducing their use of pesticide.
Mm,
If you talk about size of land, for example,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
the amount of money you can reap from beekeeping, say per acre, compared to other forms of agriculture,
Yeah.
you can't compare, because one
Mm,
box which takes very little space can give you 10,000 shillings,
yeah.
can
Yeah.
give you 10 kilos of honey. And that's a product that doesn't go bad. You see
Mm,
now the difference with like potatoes or whatever, once you harvest. Um, I mean, even from my experience with Mazao Talks, we learned that one of the things that farmers are really suffering with is post harvest losses.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
a crazy number. It's
Yeah.
like up to
Mm,
40% is lost through post harvest loss. You That's not a problem you would have with
yeah.
beekeeping.
Mm,
No,
okay.
because
Interesting.
nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
Wax can be made into hundreds of other
Yeah.
products: soap, lotion, lip balms. There's a lot that can be done. Shoe polish, candles. So it really is a win-win-win-win
Mm,
situation as
yeah.
far as beekeeping is concerned.
Yeah, I really like what you've talked about in the fact that beekeeping really improves the livelihoods of most of our small scale farmers. But Jason, just to also talk more on the role of bees, because I believe bees don't only play a critical role in producing honey and
Yeah.
producing other products. What are some of the ecosystem functions of bees?
That's a very good
Mm,
question. So, actually, even from an economic standpoint,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
we base all our projections as far as beekeeping is concerned on honey. But honey is the cheapest of all bee products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the most interesting thing. So we use that as a guide as to how much you can make potentially. Uh, but even aside from the honey, the key role that bees and other pollinators play. By the way, happy World Bee Day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
key role
Mm-hmm.
that they play is keeping food on our table through
Mm,
pollination.
mm,
Say, like you said, it is believed that if we lose all the bees in the world today, humanity will have less than 4 years to live.
yeah.
It's a known fact that 1 in every 3 spoons of food you eat is a direct responsibility of a bee. We did some work with macadamia farmers also, again when we were recording Mazao Talks,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing we learned is that with macadamia farmers, the farmers who have beehives in their farms record a 57% increase in yield.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can imagine if a farmer is producing 100 bags of macadamia, they can actually get another 57 just by simply introducing beehives. And the first thing I say to farmers when I train them is that you don't have to keep bees to benefit from their products.
Mm,
You can keep bees in your farm just because it's the right thing to do. So, like in Kitui and in Muranga, some of the farmers I'm working with are actually fruit farmers. So what I'm encouraging them is to create that ecosystem where the bees have enough nectar in the fruit farms, and now the farmer benefits also in terms of the fruit produces a lot more, just by simple pollination. In the US right now, there's a huge problem, very very big problem in also in Europe, because a lot of chemicals have killed a lot of bees. So one of the main income earners for beekeepers is actually pollination services.
Yeah.
So you find like in California, where there's a lot of there's been a huge demand increase in almond milk.
Mm-hmm.
So California is one of the major growers of almonds.
Mm-hmm.
So there are farmers who literally just put beehives on trucks and just go drive them to those farms,
Oh.
keep them there for a couple of days or months, and then charge the almond farmers per hive per day. So I mean, it's you can see like how it's such a problem. It poses such a threat, that we've gotten to a point where people are actually just paying for commercial pollination. And I'd hate for us here to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like where we are heading, because at the moment the number of pollinators have also reduced, and that is attributable to the current industrial agriculture, which the
Yeah.
government is also pushing so hard for farmers to embrace. And
I I'm very conflicted about large
yeah,
scale farming,
uh-huh,
especially monoculture.
yeah,
What I've seen, especially in some parts of the world, is like Asia. I've seen in India that they're really working hard to do reforestation, especially through
mm,
a method called Miyawaki forest. So they're really encouraging as many people to grow forests, even within small pieces of
mm,
land.
mm,
Um, um, the thing with large scale commercial farming is that it does a lot more damage to the environment than good.
mm,
First, even so, I mean, like I was saying, I encourage farmers to always create a system where an ecosystem where they can be able to provide for themselves, and then they give a surplus. I'll share a story with you.
mm-hmm,
In Nyahururu,
mm-hmm,
there's a farmer I've been working with,
mm-hmm,
and he's a very wise old man. And he was telling me, so the context of Nyandarua is that everybody grows potatoes.
yeah,
So all the other things people go to get from the
mm-hmm,
market, not supermarket, from the market.
mm-hmm,
Um, so he looked around and he said, "Why do I always have to go to the market to buy skuma, carrots, and all those things?" So what he decided is that he said he'll turn his small piece of land, which is about 3 acres. He said he'll turn his small piece of land into the market.
oh,
So while everybody else is growing maize and
yeah,
just
yeah,
potatoes, he has subdivided his land and built a beautiful garden and ecosystem where there's spinach, there's carrots, there's so a lot of villagers, so to
mm-hmm,
speak. Even going to town now is a waste of time.
yeah,
They'd rather go to this guy's
mm,
place,
mm,
and I see so much wisdom in that, because he was telling me like generally in life people have to go out to look for money, and by him just doing that simple change of growing a variety of crops on
yeah,
his small piece of land, now he doesn't need to go out looking for money. The money comes to
mm,
him,
mm,
which is like the biggest blessing I think you'd ever get in your life.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's just changing how they think. So, so in his farm, he has also put a section where he has a tree nursery. He has tree nurseries,
mm,
and I think he's just a wonderful example of how agroecology can
yeah.
actually be very beneficial for the farmer.
Yeah, specifically improving the livelihoods.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I always say the only way to change a farmer's
Mm,
perception, and if you want any programs to be productive,
mm-hmm.
you have to make sure that there's the end result is money in the farmer's
Yeah.
pocket, because otherwise it's just stories. I'll tell you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Like same place in Yahururu, a couple of farmers I'm working with, you find like towards opening of school, especially now that schools have been closing for like a week,
Yeah.
then parents have to now again figure out where are they going to get school fees again.
Mm,
So what happens is that time you find some farmers do is that they cut down trees to make charcoal
mm-hmm.
to sell. It doesn't matter that farmer how much you tell him about global warming,
Yeah, yeah.
how pesticides are not, he doesn't care. He needs the money
Mm,
next week.
mm,
So, and that's one thing I found with beekeeping is that if instead of him cutting down the trees and showing him that this tree has value for the bees.
Yeah.
And this box can give you 10,000. You can imagine how much work you'd have to do to make 10,000 from potatoes.
Yeah. Oh
But
God.
now
Yeah.
imagine
Yeah.
in beekeeping, it's literally just one box.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, just what I really like what you've mentioned about the money and having bees in the box in
yeah.
comparison to a farmer planting potatoes. And I'm just curious to understand more about bees.
Mhm.
Should the bees be in the beehive or should you let them be out there and do the pollination work? Or
No,
should it be both?
so now,
Mm-hmm.
that's a very good
Mm-hmm.
question because the thing is, so when we install beehives, we
Mm-hmm.
install an empty box.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what you're doing is putting a box there so that when a scout bee comes,
Mm-hmm.
it sees that this is a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Then it will go bring the rest of the colony because
Mm-hmm.
bees move as a unit. Um, so one of the best things about beekeeping, unlike keeping a cow or
Mm-hmm.
a goat, is that you literally have to take care of them, take them to the river. Now, bees, you don't need to do that. They do all that for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Remember, their pollination is as a result of them trying to feed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something they're doing for you.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to get food for themselves, and in the process, you benefit through
Yeah.
pollination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't, like, literally, when you put a beehive, all you need to do is open it once a month just to check. Yeah, what
Oh.
the conditions are
But you can
like.
always be letting the bees just, they'll
Ah,
always be moving.
they always just they
Because at
move
the end
when
of the
they
day, that's how
want.
you get even
Yeah,
honey.
yeah, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, they go
okay.
out, then in the evening they come back, they sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And also just back to farming,
Mm-hmm.
according to your experience working with farmers from Kitui
Mm.
and is it Makueni?
Uh,
Muranga and Muranga.
Muranga, yeah, I've
Ah,
worked with farmers in Nyahururu, in Kitale, a lot of places.
yeah, yeah. What
Yeah.
do you think is the context of the Kenyan farming in regards to integration of bees into farming? Are they embracing it?
You know, like I said, it's all about money at the end of the day. I
Yeah, yeah.
think we can never run away from the society from the fact that our society is all about money.
Mm-hmm.
And money is needed. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a reality of life. So the farmer will always go for something that's gonna give them quick money. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
they use pesticides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the crops are being, it's not that they hate themselves so much that they want
Mm-hmm.
to, or hate anybody too much that they want to pump too many
Mm-hmm.
chemicals. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's a fact that that person has needs. They have to pay for school fees, they have stuff they need to pay for,
Yeah.
they have families to feed. So that's why you find, like, if a guy is gonna use fertilizer that's very harsh on the soil but gonna make, in a month the guy will have produce.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to need to do. But the best thing I like about farmers is that they are very teachable.
Mm-hmm.
Farmers listen to each other, they listen to
Mm-hmm.
advice, and a lot of them, you find, when you introduce the aspect of beekeeping to them, when the coin drops, they're like, wow, this is actually something I'd want to try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And some will even
Mm-hmm.
start with one box, then they call you, they're so excited, we've
Yeah.
harvested 8 kilos or 10
Yeah. Oh
kilos.
wow.
Yeah. And now they're like, oh wow. So even if I tell him ndakujia your asali next
Eh,
month, it
eh.
will still be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So pia
Yeah.
mi naweza katu beehive kwa compound yangu.
So long, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But also, okay, the thing about beekeeping is that it's not all plug and play.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of factors come into. There are guys who have beehives on a quarter of an acre.
Yeah.
But there's some places you can't have bees even on an acre. You get
Mm.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
depending on how the setup is. Are there
Yeah.
trees?
Yeah, yeah.
Are there lots of people? Is it highly, because you can have someone like on an eighth, but literally it's like a forest. So
Yeah.
if he
Oh
has
yeah.
bees there, it's not a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But for example, if you think of Nairobi Estate, the way it's just concrete,
Mm-mm.
you can't keep a beehive
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So it's really, I always tell people, never take advice from someone who tells you the number of beehives you can put on your land
Yeah.
without even getting an idea of what your land looks like.
Mm.
Because that, you find the circumstances are very different. Because, okay, so for example, there are people who have, say, big land, but there's very little water or it's extremely
Yeah.
dry. There's people who have small pieces of land, but they have all the factors. Maybe they're on half an
Yeah.
acre, but the acre is right by the
Yeah.
river. They have lots of trees.
Yeah.
So
It goes back to how the environment
it,
really
it
looks
just
like.
it
Yeah.
yeah, it's factor of just what the environment looks like.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just on
Mm.
for a farmer who's doing agroecology or
Mhm.
for a farmer who's practicing sustainable farming practices, how
Yeah.
does sustainable beekeeping really look like? How is yeah.
So what this means is, So for you to be a successful beekeeper, you
Mhm.
must look at the bee as an equal, not as a I don't know how to put it,
A
not as a
benefac Is it a benefactor just to get
not
honey?
not a matter of this is just something I benefit from.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
have to look at it as a partner. You have to look at them as really like your babies.
Mm,
Like you have to look at the relationship as a very symbiotic one.
mm,
We take care of you, and we'll take care. Like we'll return the favor.
yeah.
So basically, what this means is when you do agroecology, is that you create an environment that's perfect for the bees.
Ah.
What that
Uh-huh.
means is that, for example, your crops will be well pollinated, which
Mhm.
means you're producing more. But the bees are also, because they have food, they're producing a lot more honey because honey is just nectar.
Mm,
So even when you harvest honey, one of the things we do is that you must make it symbiotic. Bees don't make honey for us.
yeah.
It's not for us, it's for them.
Mm,
That's what they're storing to eat when things are bad.
mm.
So when you harvest, don't harvest everything from the hive.
Ah.
Leave some for them. Always make sure your bees have water close by. Make sure the hives are always clean. Make sure the place is properly fenced. And the other thing I say these days I'm very big on, and I'm actually not doing any installations without doing this, is also make sure that there's safety signage where the beehives are, because
Uh-huh.
because what that does is that it reduces interaction between the bees and humans. You give them space
Oh,
for them to just thrive on their own. You don't want to
yeah.
put the beehives in a place where maybe there's a lot of activity on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really want them to have
Ah.
like a good environment that's safe, that's
Yeah.
they're not being disturbed.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really encourage farmers to do, which I'm doing right now,
Mhm.
is we have safety signage boards that say, danger, bees on
Mm,
site.
mm,
Because also the other thing I've realized from experience is that where there's been a lot of accidents, it was really that. It was really an accident.
mm.
Say, like in Maragua, there's a very sad story of a family that lost an uncle who was drunk. And then as he was trying to get home in the dark, he fell into a hole that had some bees.
Oh God.
So you see, and then
Yeah.
he's already, he couldn't stand, he couldn't. So you see, it's never, bees never leave the hive with the intention to come look for you to sting you.
Yeah.
No, they're really out just foraging. So you find a lot of times either a cow will go try to scratch its
Yeah.
back on
Yeah.
a beehive.
Yeah.
Kids will be curious to throw a stone. So it's important, even if you have two hives, fence off that area and put a warning sign.
Yeah.
So just that, now that's creating that
Environment.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just when I'm just
Mm.
so it's not advisable for a farmer who has chicken on the farm, cows on the farm.
No, they can coexist. They
Oh.
can coexist perfectly. Like I said, it's just that thing of interfering with the bees. That's why I was saying it's
Mm-hmm.
important to think safety,
Mm-hmm.
because bees just need you to check on them once a month. So one of the things like we do, for example, is we're encouraging farmers who can afford to build what we call bee houses.
Mm-hmm.
A bee house means that it's a house literally, but the fence, the wall, instead of a normal wall, it's a wire mesh.
Mm-hmm.
So the bees can fly in and out. And in that house, you can keep several beehives.
Mm,
Basically, you don't want people going there.
yeah.
You can lock it. Like I said, a bee will never leave its hive with the intention to come look for you wherever you are to sting you. It's always when they feel threatened, either by someone passed by there, a tractor passed by and it disturbed the peace of the hive. Someone threw a stone. Yeah, so that's why I say it's important. Like for example, if you're on a small piece of land, fence off the area with the hives and put warning signage.
Okay.
Yeah, that way, even a cow won't be able to get to the hive.
Mm,
Children won't be able to get to the hives, and they're able to see clearly that okay, this is a dangerous area. Is a potentially dangerous area. So, yeah, it's about creating that environment because a lot of times you find. Because some hives, and I've seen this a lot, some
mm-hmm.
hives have not been installed properly, so maybe the grass has overgrown.
Mm,
So you find someone possibly doesn't know that there's a hive there. Maybe they were
yeah.
walking, they were slashing grass,
Yeah.
then they disturbed the colony and the colony came out. So it's really always accidents like
Okay.
yeah.
This has been actually very interesting to
Yeah.
know more about bees.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we've come to the end of the show.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was fast. Yeah, maybe if you have a parting shot.
Well, I guess just to say, like, we should appreciate bees more. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what the simple things like you can do to take care of bees is, like, for example, if you have a house, put some water outside with
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little flowers, or stones, like have a plate, then put some stones or
Yeah.
some pebbles, then pour some water. Always leave some water outside. Bees
Mm-hmm.
will always come. So at least they have somewhere to perch. If you can support a community that's like if it's a children's home or something, I think one of the things we can do is support this type of communities through beekeeping, which is one thing I'm really trying to do. There's a children's home called Shelter Children's Home that I've been working with in Gong.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you give one person a beehive can easily give you about 10 years. So, what that means that for the 10 years, just by virtue of having a beehive, this institution will be able to support itself.
Yeah.
It's not like where we just come, give food one day, and then
Mm.
we leave. Yeah, you'd rather. So I'm working with them. I'm training them. Hopefully, also when the kids leave, that they'll have also gained a new skill. Yeah, so I can see how beekeeping can change the world. Yeah,
Yeah. And also
yeah.
increase more food.
Increase more
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think, and I think the few times I've traveled, like especially like to Ethiopia and to
Uh-huh.
Uganda next door,
Yeah.
it's really shocking how food is so cheap.
Oh.
Like Uganda, yo, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking. Like what you pay for, like here in a normal coffee shop,
Mm-hmm.
divide that by three or by two,
Oh
and that's what you
wow.
pay in a same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like what we call CJs here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Cafe Javas
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Uganda.
Yeah.
What you pay for a plate there and what you pay for a plate here.
Yeah.
Actually, Rutu Food should do that comparison. Just comparison of what a plate of food
Yeah.
costs in different African countries and see.
Yeah, and also just when I was having a conversation with my colleague on how just on beekeeping, and he was
Hmm.
mentioning to me how the environment has really changed. Nowadays, we see people fencing with walls, and that could be another reason as to why honey production has also
It,
reduced.
I suspect it could be.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because guys are
actually,
cutting
yeah.
down trees.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long time, all the fences were kayapol.
yeah,
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 that was the
yeah,
norm.
yeah. Nowadays,
uh,
everyone is fencing
yeah,
using concrete.
yeah. We really have to rethink agriculture and just our
Mm.
lives. Yeah, I mean, where we're headed. Because the other thing we found out is that the average age of a farmer in Kenya is 60.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, young people, and then with a population of I think close to 80% that is below
Yeah,
30.
yeah.
So it means maybe 10% of the population is feeding the
Yeah.
90%.
But Jason, it
Yeah.
also goes back to you as a young person trying to get that land. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Everything is not
Yeah.
everything is not easy for a young person in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Access to land is
Mm,
but the other thing I think young people really, 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 really need to consider,
hmm.
because I also don't want to work with people who are not in it for the long game.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because the other problem is that I think our society has taught young people to expect instant gratification.
Yeah.
So for you, like for example, beekeeping, for you to become a proficient beekeeper, I would say you need at least a year, because you're not just learning about the bee,
Mm,
you're also learning about your environment.
yeah.
What time does this flower? What time do these
Yeah.
trees flower? What time does it rain?
Yeah.
When is there a lot of water? Because all those things affect production.
Yeah.
So you find a lot of people 3 months
They give up.
they're like Kikitwata, it's not worth it. Or yeah, so I really encourage young people to
Mhm.
get into groups, do things as a group, because then there's accountability and you can also push each other. Because sometimes I've tried doing this thing alone and it can be a very lonely journey.
Mm,
And I think
mm,
it's exciting when you're learning with someone. So yeah, we should learn to shikana and hold hands
yeah.
and walk these journeys together. A lot of young people are not doing that.
Yeah. Now I'm curious to
Mm.
know how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing it
Yeah.
for about 2 years now, over 2 years.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
How has the
But
journey been so far?
it's been very good, very fulfilling.
Okay.
I actually really love my job. Not a lot of people say that, but I actually really, truly love my job for two
Yeah.
reasons.
Uh-huh.
Working with nature has a very calming effect on us. And then I also spend a lot of time traveling the country,
Mm-hmm.
so what I say is that I'm so grateful to beekeeping and agribusiness in general, because it has taken me to parts of this country that I had never been to. And I possibly would have never gone otherwise. Say, for example, like places like Vihiga,
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful places in this country. Western Kenya is stunning. Kitale, and all these are places that I've been, even to West Pokot, Kapenguria sides, and all this was purely as a result of beekeeping. Taita Taveta, Malindi. So it's all these places I've actually gotten to go. Like Kapenguria was not even a place I ever thought I would step. Never. Like, it was not even in my bucket list or anything like that. So now I'm excited to see more. I want to go to Lodo. I want to go to Turkana. I want to go to all these places, northeastern Kenya, because the other advantage of beekeeping, unlike other crops, like cabbage grows in very specific places, fruits grow in very specific places. You can keep bees in any corner of this country.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any more questions. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. This has been really good.
Asante sana.
Yeah,
I hope we'll get to do another episode together. And
I hope so.
And I also hope to get to taste your honey at some point.
One of the things, sorry, we keep closing, but yeah. So one of the things I'm encouraging people as well to think about rather than think of other people as competition, look for opportunities to collaborate. So one of the things we've done is that we are collaborating now with a chef. Who is doing fine dining French cuisine, but now we provide him with the honey so that he can come up with different food. So it's like an event. It's a fine dining event, which we're using honey from the farmers that we work with. Yeah, so people can get to experience different honey, because the honey tastes so different depending on where it's from. When you taste honey, you're literally tasting a place, because it's from the nectar. So Baringo honey will not look like Kitui honey, will not look like Malindi honey. They all have very different taste profiles, consistency, color. It's so different. Medicinal value. So just opportunities for people who are not maybe in the beekeeping space to also experience different types of honeys. Maybe then they can start thinking about bees more. So that's one of the things that we're doing, collaboration. You don't always have to be the one actually producing the honey. So young people should think outside the box. There's a lot of opportunities. You can get into this just to do beekeeping content. There's content creation, logistics services. Like, there's a lot. IT is in very high demand in agriculture. There's a lot of opportunities aside from the actual production, but you must, to some level, have some investment in learning the actual production, so that when you're creating a product for that production, say if it's a marketing tool, then you understand this product really, really, really well. Then you can see where you can offer solutions. Yeah.
Clearly, bees play an important role.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason.
Thank you for having me. We've become like a pastor or a politician where we say we are closing 10 times. But thanks, it's been great.
So thank you so much to our listeners for listening in. Subscribe, like, share, and follow us. Asante.
Thank you.